A Sicilian in America by John Brucato. Introduction. One of the most beautiful islands in the world is the island of Sicily, one of the 20 regions of Italy. Some of the most beautiful and interesting people inhabit this ancient and unusual land. When you have a Sicilian for a friend, he is your friend for life. Here is an unusual and incredible story of a Sicilian American, John Brucato, who has lived a full life filled with accomplishments, never easy and mostly against odds, sometimes insurmountable odds. In this book, he will take you through his many involvements before, through, and after the World War I era, the bootleg and tin pan alley days, the Charleston period, the Depression, and on to the present day. He will relate the many happenings, his uncanny description of events, sometimes witty, always factual. Brucato is at home with the wealthy, the powerful, the politicians, but he is happiest with the common people, the little guys, and most of all, his family. He boasts about his American family and the many relatives he left behind in Sicily, which he calls his Italian family. His love of them and their love of him is his greatest satisfaction. "This is my wealth," he would say, "my family." His life has been a challenge, whether in business, government, civic life, or in the many enterprises he initiated, fighting tirelessly and with conviction, and at all times for the benefit of the community. He fought for just causes, spurning wealth for his principles, but most of all trying to overcome the mafia stigma with good deeds. His experiences, his narration, his many anecdotes, all on a low-key basis, will give the reader a fascinating and enjoyable inside look at this man's productive and exciting life. Now, in his middle octogenarian years, he remains active in his community, serves on many boards, and continues to think young and aggressive, despite a few minor physical ailments that come with old age. He reasons that your second life begins at 65, what he calls the youth of old age. As you continue through the golden years, middle age begins at 85, and you are really old when you pass 95. Alessandro Beccari, a friend. Forward. How does one go about fighting to eliminate the stigma of the mafia that seems to be attached to those of Sicilian birth or Sicilian roots? Perhaps in this book, A Sicilian in America, I may have lit a candle, a small candle, but a light that could spread. Another candle, another light. Soon there could be many lights, and eventually the illumination from these many candles, these many lights, will be like Times Square at night, like Las Vegas with its nighttime brilliance, all brought about by a lot of little people like myself, lighting a candle. It is long past due that this movement, starting at the grassroots, the Sicilian grassroots, spreads this illumination, this gospel, not according to Matthew or John, but the gospel of rebellion. Not a rebellion against our glorious country, America, but a rebellion against those mafia bastards who have maligned the good name of Sicily and those with Sicilian roots. We have to defeat these mafiosi and those of Sicilian heritage who glorify the Godfathers, the Goodfellas, and the many films and books that make them wealthy at the expense of their countrymen. This must be a grassroots revolution brought about not with weapons, but with good deeds and the publicizing of the many, many accomplishments and contributions of Sicilians to the world, their country, their states, and their local communities. The battle has just begun, and it is up to you and me who have Sicilian roots. Perhaps the fault lies with us, of Italian or Sicilian descent. We have been too complacent. What I have gathered, however, is that there has been an awakening, and that we are angry. We are fed up with being depicted negatively by the media, as criminals, bigots, or buffoons. We want the media to show the many positives of life in our communities. We want to bring out the contributions we have made, the good, the constructive, the humanitarian, the many, many aspects of our heritage that are just the opposite of what they depict. And we want that change now. The greatest offenders are television and motion pictures, where we are always the bad guys. The mob, the mafia princesses, everything with a violent background. Is this what the viewers really want? If so, then we are truly sick, and God help us all. Those Italian-American writers, actors, producers, whose works perpetuate these stereotypes are not excused. The lure of riches may be hard to resist, but they too must be held responsible. From the time Italians began arriving on our shores in large numbers in the 19th century, the media has linked them to criminality, despite figures from the U.S. Department of Justice showing that fewer than 0.1% of Italian Americans are involved with organized crime. Consider that there are more than 25 million Americans of Italian descent who are proud of their family-oriented values, their hard, constructive work, and their many, many achievements that helped make this country great. Add to this number the many millions more who have intermarried and do not bear Italian names, but are proud of their Italian roots. We say, basta, enough. We want to be treated as an equal part of the American mosaic, maintaining our proud ancestral roots and participating fully and fairly in the fabric of American life. And I say, damn those of Italian origin who have richly capitalized on the defects of that infinitesimal few who give us a stigma that we must bear on our shoulders and on our children's shoulders. The author, Sicilian-born John Brucato, arrived in America at the age of 4, together with his family in 1909. He was reared in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn. After graduating from the College of Agriculture at Farmingdale, Long Island, he went west to continue his viticultural studies at the University of California at Davis. Following a tour of duty as a farmhand and farm manager, he became a food and drug inspector in New York City. He later went west and did notable work with the California State Department of Agriculture. He operated his own vineyard in the Alexander Valley, before it became famous, in Sonoma County, and with the repeal of Prohibition, he and his 2 brothers operated a successful bonded winery for 18 years in San Francisco, until the untimely death of his older brother forced the sale of the winery. He then became manager of the Agriculture and Land Division of the San Francisco Water Department, making millions of dollars for his beloved city through leasing its far-flung properties. With a food shortage during World War II, he successfully organized the Victory Garden program, which resulted in over 70,000 backyard gardens in the city. To assist family-sized farmers who had difficulty selling their crops during wartime, he organized the famous San Francisco Farmers Market, the granddaddy of more than 180 certified farmers markets, subsequently organized throughout California. He has served on many boards and commissions, civic, business, fraternal, and charitable, always for the benefit of others and with no financial gain for himself. He has always felt that whatever he was involved in was his way of paying back to his adopted country, America, in many small and many big ways. Chapter 1. The Early Years. As I look back at my life, I must say that it has been difficult, interesting, and rewarding. When one lives more than 87 years, he lives through a lot of history. During my lifetime, I lived through 2 world wars, plus the Korean and Vietnam Wars, the Prohibition and bootleg period, 2 depressions, the Charleston and Jazz era, and the births of the automobile, the airplane, and front-wheel drive. As a young immigrant, I witnessed discrimination and integration, and I was always in search of the American dream. I was born in Sicily on May 12, 1905, in the city of Palermo. My parents were strong-willed, affectionate people. I was blessed to have them. Two wonderful brothers, Frank and Peter, and a gracious sister, Frances. My father, Francesco Antonio Brucato, his brother Pietro, and their father before them were in the business of exporting lemons from Sicily. Their office, packing sheds, and lemon groves were near the town of Cefalù, about 30 miles east of Palermo, where we lived. But as time passed, as in so many places, farmland disappeared, and Cefalù became urbanized. The business was quite prosperous until a worldwide depression struck with all its fury in 1908. Europe, particularly Sicily, was hard hit. My father's main outlets were the New York and London markets. As Italy suffered, Sicily suffered more. It lacked industry and natural resources, and the majority of the population was illiterate. Characteristic of most depression periods, the rich seemed to grow richer while the poor grew poorer. The wealthy truly lived the good life with country villas and fashionable palazzi in the city. The majority of Sicilians were contadini, peasants, struggling to survive. My family was best described as middle class, scarce in those days. Sicily is still one of the world's most beautiful islands, with a history that goes back thousands of years and a culture marked by many foreign invaders. Its exquisite architecture stands as a symbol of outside influence. There are Phoenician, Greek, and Roman ruins, and temples and buildings of the Byzantine, Norman, Arab, and Gothic periods. As one gets older, the memory of youth becomes easier to recollect, while things that happened yesterday or last week become difficult to remember. As I close my eyes, I see so clearly the Sicily of my youth. In the cities of Palermo, Messina, and Catania, there were fashionable parades in a select quarter of each city on Sundays. In Palermo, this section was called the Quattro Canti, Four Corners, made famous as Garibaldi's tent headquarters from which he planned the campaign to defeat the Bourbons, who ruled Sicily and Naples for many years. Each Sunday, families of the nobility would show off their finery as they strolled about greeting each other while the peasants looked on, not with envy, but with amusement. The automobile was just in its infancy and had no place in the Sunday ceremony called La Passeggiata, the walk. Besides attending the opera, it was the best show in town. Another important part of Sicilian social life that I remember well was the sidewalk cafes and pastry shops, where one could have a cafe espresso, gelato, cannoli, and a few biscotti in the company of friends. Now that I am a big boy, I am happy to say this ritual is still part of a Sicilian's daily routine. The Arabs invented ice cream, but Sicilians immortalized it. The Palermitani are friendly and gracious. Sunday was the family's day out, and they made the most of it. It was a wonderful era, but no longer possible due to the advent of the automobile. How I enjoyed my gelato as a little boy. In fact, the memory is so profound that on each of my 10 trips back to Sicily, part of my purpose was to relive those memories. My best pal at the time was my nonno, grandfather, Neo Gallo, my mother's father. It was he who developed my Sicilian sweet tooth. Other vivid memories include the street sweepers, pushing a can with broom and shovel, gathering the bundles of garbage tossed from windows each morning. It was the custom of the times. Unsanitary, yes, but memorable. I would laugh when a garbage bundle sailed out and narrowly missed an innocent passerby. Another fond sight was the milkman passing in the early morning with 3 or 4 cows and several goats. Residents lowered baskets from balconies with pitchers and exact payment. The herdsman milked a cow or goat on the spot, filled the pitchers with fresh warm milk, and the baskets were hauled back up with a cheery ciao and arrivederci. The milk was filtered and boiled for safety. The same system applied to other vendors: the breadman, fishmonger, butcher. Who needed supermarkets when home delivery was key? My mother often spoke of our family home, what today would be considered a condominium. It was a spacious 7-room residence occupying the entire primo piano, first floor, as Italians count floors, above the pian terreno, ground floor. Floors of Italian marble kept the hot summers cool. In winter, they were covered with rugs. The main rooms had floor-to-ceiling windows. Drinking water came from a nearby public fountain, sparkling, palatable, stored daily in earthen jars. The large kitchen, most important room in a Sicilian home, and the balcony overlooking the street made it ideal for entertaining. Every building had a guardaporta, custodian, who served as security and maintenance man. Ours was Lorenzo, a friendly fellow with 6 children of his own. Family records note that I was born in my mother's home on Via Francesco Crispi, overlooking Palermo's beautiful bay, the Conca d'Oro, Golden Shell. Mountains encircle the city, the most famous being Monte Pellegrino, site of the shrine of Santa Rosalia, Palermo's patron saint. In the distance sits Monreale, with its cathedral famed for priceless mosaics and a gigantic ceiling painting of the Padre Eterno, Eternal Father, with outstretched arms, surely one of mankind's wonders. I was the baby of the family, pampered and spoiled. I miss them all dearly. I often pray to good Saint Francis, patron saint of Italy, whose motto, "Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace," strongly influenced us Brucatos. Through generations, the first son was always named Francesco. My father and brother Frank bore the name proudly. Secretly, I was always a little envious not to be called Francesco. I owe so much to my parents, who nourished me with love and understanding and used discipline wisely. After a childhood knee operation, post-operative care included frequent beach visits to bake my knee in hot sand. A month later, my mother took me to Mondello, a resort near Palermo, where she buried my knee daily in the sand, while Palermitani bathed in the Mediterranean. The Mondello Pavilion attracted Scandinavians, Germans, and English escaping northern winters. A beloved custom was sipping a small glass of Marsala immediately after coming out of the water, an insurance against catching cold, regardless of temperature. At age 4, I enjoyed my sip, while my knee baked in the sand. The operation delayed our trip to America, but not for long. America, the promised land, became my parents' goal. My father later said, "It was time to start a new and better life." I have a photo from that time with long, curly hair. My grandchildren tease me about it. Before leaving, my father took me to a barber who sheared the curls. My mother cried, "My poor bambino, his beautiful curls are gone." We sailed from Naples on the Giuseppe Verdi, one of the better transatlantic steamships, to New York. Passage was at a premium. Everyone wanted to reach America. From Palermo to Naples, we took the overnight postal mailboat. The train was too slow and unreliable. The Giuseppe Verdi was crowded with hopeful immigrants. They were not lazy. They wanted work their homelands could not provide. Many had little money, spending life savings for this drastic change. Most traveled in steerage, packed like sardines. Sanitation was almost non-existent. Families lived on dried salami, bread, biscuits, cheese. Mothers picked lice from children's hair. Toilet facilities were indescribable. Seasickness added to the misery. It was survival, and similar conditions prevailed on ships of all nations. We were fortunate with a second-class stateroom, 6 of us, and room for 2 more. Crowded, yes, but better food and conditions. After 10 rough days at sea, we reached Ellis Island. Passing beneath that most beautiful of all ladies, the Statue of Liberty, was my parents' greatest thrill. Steerage passengers disembarked for health inspection. Second and first-class passengers were inspected aboard ship. We were met by my favorite uncle, Roberto Gallo, who ran a custom house brokerage in Manhattan. He found us a home in Bensonhurst, one of Brooklyn's better sections and only blocks from Gravesend Bay, whose sandy beach was perfect for my knee therapy. Rent was under $40 a month for a 3-story wood frame house with a huge lot. Soon, our vegetable garden. Everyone had gardens then, and raised rabbits and chickens. The coal-fired furnace in the huge basement required about 2 tons of coal a month. Winters were cold. I acquired my green thumb from my father. We grew enough tomatoes to sun-dry into paste for winter sauce, and many other vegetables, a seed perhaps of my future in agriculture. When school opened, Francis, Frank, Peter, and I entered public school 163 in Bath Beach, a 10-block walk, no school buses then. Mary E. Lynch, tall, stern, and kindly, was principal over a polyglot of Italians, Jews, Irish, and Poles. Few Hispanics or blacks then. One teacher taught all subjects per classroom. Only 2 male teachers handled shop and English. Discipline was strict. Misbehaviors faced cuffed knuckles. Parents seldom complained. Society respected discipline. Peter and I grew close in grammar school, learning to handle our fists by necessity. There were always fights at recess or lunch. When ganged up on, Peter and I fought back-to-back, our Brooklynese style. We became quadrilingual, Sicilian dialect and Italian at home, English at school, and Brooklynese in the streets, a trace of which still colors my speech. Breakfast on school days was hot chocolate or half coffee, half milk, bread, butter, jam, sometimes oatmeal. Dry cereals were just beginning. Lunch boxes held peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and hard-boiled eggs. Mother gave us 5 cents, 2 for a pretzel, 2 for a kosher pickle, 1 for halva, all from Jewish vendors outside the schoolyard. There were no playgrounds. We played in the streets. Little traffic, but an occasional horse and wagon or Model T Ford. Everyone had roller skates. We played hockey in summer and ice hockey in winter, skates clamped to shoes. Baseball and football in sand lots, and swam in Gravesend Bay. Winters meant sleighs, snowballs, and snow forts. No supervisors, but everyone joined some sport unless ill. New York's underground subway spread into suburbs, though in Brooklyn and Queens, the tracks were elevated. Thanks to Mayor John Hylan, the fare was a nickel anywhere in the 5 boroughs. Coney Island was nearby. Everyone went on hot summer days, hot, unventilated trains notwithstanding. Millions crowded the beaches, sunburned in the garbage-polluted water. City garbage was dumped from barges 12 miles out, only to float back with the tide. No one minded. You swam pushing garbage aside with one hand, propelling with the other. After sun, hot dogs smothered in mustard or sauerkraut, corn on the cob, popcorn, beer, or sarsaparilla. New Yorkers had a good time. Strange breed that they are. Before I finished grammar school, Mother, Francis, Peter, and I returned to Sicily for a visit in 1915. World War I underway, but Italy then neutral. Mother owned a condominium inherited from family. During our absence, my aunt, her family, and my beloved grandfather occupied the flat near Via Roma, across from Palermo's Hotel delle Palme. Peter and I attended the Silesian school of Don Bosco briefly. Because we were Americani, survival followed the usual boyhood ritual. They fought the Italian way. We fought Brooklynese. back to back, fists educated. After the second day, we were accepted, leaving classmates with bloody noses, black eyes, a few swollen jaws. My grandfather, historian and retired engineer, was strict at the dinner table. No talking until dessert. Lentils were plentiful, and his favorite, though they produced gas. 3 nights in a row, we had lentil soup. During one dinner, silence was broken by grandfather's, shall we say, emphatic release. Like a mild 4th of July, each time he softly intoned, "Alla faccia dei nemici della Santa Chiesa," in the face of the enemies of the Holy Church. We stifled laughter and continued eating. We cut our vacation short as Italy prepared to join the Allies. We sailed from Naples on the Cristoforo Colombo. Near Gibraltar, a German submarine surfaced, boarded, and departed with a defector. Frightening, but brief. Brooklyn looked mighty good when we returned. Francis graduated Bay Ridge High School and worked for the Italian consulate, fluent in Italian, English, Spanish, some German. Frank left high school to work. Family finances were tight. Peter graduated New Utrecht High and began as a custom house broker under Uncle Robert Gallo. How I ever graduated high school, I will never know. All Brooklynites are rabid baseball fans from age 3 to 99. During baseball season, I spent more time at Ebbets Field watching the Dodgers than in school. I wasn't alone. Fanatic was coined for Brooklyn fans. Win or lose, we loved them. If they lost, they were bums, those Brooklyn bums. The big games were Dodgers versus New York Giants at the Polo Grounds or Ebbets Field. It was called the Nickel World Series. When you eat a lot of lentils, it is necessary to emit the gas or become bloated. We had lentils 3 nights in a row. One evening, as silence reigned and the family enjoyed lentil soup, Grandpa, perhaps unable to control himself, emitted a blast like a mild 4th of July. While we remained quiet, he softly said, "Alla faccia dei nemici della Santa Chiesa." We had to cut our summer holiday short as Italy was about to declare war on Germany and join the Allies. We left Naples on the Cristoforo Colombo. Near Gibraltar, as everyone promenaded on deck, a German submarine surfaced, boarded, and took a defector prisoner. Brooklyn looked mighty good to us. Francis graduated Bay Ridge High and worked for the Italian consulate. Frank went to work. Peter began his brokerage career with Uncle Robert Gallo. How I ever graduated high school, I will never know. Brooklynites are rabid baseball fans. I spent more time at Ebbets Field when the Dodgers were home than I did in school. Fanatic derives from Brooklyn fan. We never cared whether they won or lost. If they won, we cheered. If they lost, they were bums. Giants versus Dodgers games were like a World Series, the Nickel World Series.